The heavy oak door shuddered against the wall, the impact reverberating through the hallway like a gunshot. It was 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, a time usually reserved for the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the rustling of pages in my library. I was in the middle of pressing my lavender linens, the steam rising in gentle clouds, when the peace was shattered by boots pounding against the hardwood floor. "Mother, where are you?" The voice belonged to Julian, my son, but the tone was unrecognizable. It wasn't the voice of the boy I had raised, nor the man who usually called on Sundays. It was a guttural roar, echoing with a fury that made my hands tremble as I set the iron down. I stepped out of the bedroom, smoothing the front of my apron. At 72, I had learned that dignity was a shield, and I pulled it around me now. Julian stood in the center of the living room, his chest heaving, his face flushed a deep, angry crimson. He looked so much like his father in that moment, the same broad shoulders, the same furrowed brow, but his eyes were cold, hard stones. "Why did Bella call me in tears?" he demanded, not even waiting for me to reach the bottom of the stairs. "She was at the checkout counter at the boutique. The card was declined. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is? To stand there with a line of people watching, having the cashier cut up the card." I gripped the banister, feeling the cool wood under my palm. "I imagine it was quite embarrassing," I said, my voice steady despite the thumping of my heart. "I canceled the card this morning, Julian. I changed the security codes." You what?" He stepped closer, invading my personal space in a way he never had before. "That card is for family emergencies. You can't just shut us out because you're having a bad day." "It is not a family card, Julian. It is my credit card. It is under my name, linked to the savings your father and I built over 40 years. I walked past him to the armchair by the window, needing to sit before my knees gave way. And Bella was not buying groceries or medicine. I checked the pending charges. $500 at a luxury salon, $300 at a French bistro. "Bella manages the household," Julian shouted, throwing his hands up. "She needs to maintain an image for my career. We are a team, Mom. Or at least, I thought we were. You're acting like a miser." The word hung in the air, heavy and ugly. Miser. I looked at my son. I saw the boy I had carried to term through a difficult pregnancy, the boy I had worked double shifts for at the library after his father, Arthur, passed away from a sudden heart attack. I had paid for his university, his first car, the down payment on his townhouse. I had given everything, keeping only enough to ensure I wouldn't be a burden in my old age. "I am not a miser," I said quietly. "I am a retiree on a fixed income who can no longer fund a lifestyle I do not live." "This is ridiculous," Julian spat, pacing the rug like a caged tiger. "You're paranoid. That's what this is. Bella told me you've been acting strange lately, forgetting things, obsessing over pennies. Maybe it's time we took over the finances completely if you can't handle the stress." The threat was veiled, but sharp. Incompetence, he was suggesting I was losing my mind. "I am perfectly capable, Julian. I simply refuse to be exploited." "Exploited? We are your family." He moved to the door, his hand on the knob. "Fix this, reactivate the card, or don't expect to see us on Sunday. Don't expect to see us at all until you stop this tantrum." The door slammed shut, leaving me in a silence that felt far emptier than before. I sat there for a long time as the afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the floor. My garden outside the window was blooming. The hydrangeas were a riot of blue and purple, but I felt withered. This wasn't about a declined transaction. This was about control. For the first time in years, I had said no, and the foundation of my relationship with my son had cracked under the weight of that single word. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. To understand how we arrived at this precipice, one must understand the slow erosion of boundaries. It didn't happen overnight. It was a creeping tide. When Julian first married Bella 3 years ago, I was charmed. She was vibrant. A former marketing coordinator with a dazzling smile and a way of making you feel like the center of the universe. She called me Mother Eleanor and brought me artisanal teas. The requests started 6 months into the marriage. "Oh, Mother Eleanor," Bella had said one afternoon, her eyes wide and watery. "Julian's bonus didn't come through, and we're just a tiny bit short on the electric bill. Could you lend us $200, just until Friday?" I wrote the check immediately. It was a small amount, and young couples often struggle. Friday came and went. The money was never mentioned again. I let it slide. It was a gift, I told myself. Then, it was the car repair. The transmission, Mom, Julian had sighed over the phone. It's a disaster. We need 600. I swear, as soon as tax season is over, you'll get it back. I wired the money. Then came the emergency credit card. Bella is traveling for her sister's wedding. Julian explained a year ago. Her card has a low limit. If she gets stranded at the airport or has a medical issue, she needs a safety net. Can she carry your platinum card? Just for the trip. I hesitated. Arthur had always been strict about that. Only for emergencies. Julie and I had warned. Of course, Mom. We respect you too much to abuse it. Bella returned from the wedding. But the card did not return to my wallet. I forgot it in my other purse. She'd say, or, I'll bring it next Sunday. Then the charges began to trickle in. A pharmacy charge here, a gas station there. Innocent enough. I rationalized it. They were helping me with errands occasionally. Perhaps it was fair, but the trickle became a flood. Last month, I sat at my dining room table, my reading glasses perched on my nose, staring at a bank statement that made my blood run cold. In a single year, my retirement savings, the nest egg, meant to pay for my eventual care, had depleted by nearly $30,000. That there were charges for consulting fees that turned out to be high-end life coaches, charges for office supplies from stores that sold designer luggage, weekend getaways to Napa Valley, labeled as networking events. I had been funding a fantasy life, and my silence had been interpreted as permission. After Julian slammed the door that Tuesday, the silence in the house shifted. It wasn't peaceful, it was predatory. I decided I needed to confirm my sanity. I went to my study, unlocked the heavy filing cabinet, and pulled out the physical copies of my statements for the last 2 years. I laid them out on the floor, a paper trail of betrayal. I highlighted every expense I hadn't authorized in yellow. The floor became a sea of yellow ink. Then, I remembered the lockbox in the guest bedroom closet. I kept my passport and the deed to the house there. I rarely opened it. A cold suspicion pricked at the back of my neck. I walked upstairs, my joints protesting the climb. I retrieved the key from its hiding spot inside a hollowed-out book and opened the metal box there. Sitting on top of my birth certificate was a piece of paper. It was a high-resolution photocopy of my credit card front and back, including the CVV code, and next to it, a handwritten list in Bella's looping script, *, Social Security, no, XXXXXXXX****, mother's maiden name, Sterling ***, first pet, Buster ***. I gasped, the air leaving my lungs. These were security questions. They hadn't just borrowed the card, they had mined my life for data. They had prepared to become me. The phone rang downstairs. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. Eleanor. Bella's voice drifted up the stairs, dripping with synthetic sweetness. I know you're upset. Julian is just a wreck. We're worried about you. This behavior, shutting off the money, hiding in the house. It's not like you. We're coming over tomorrow to talk about a solution. We love you. The click of the disconnection sounded like a loaded gun. *******. They arrived the next morning at 10. They didn't knock. They used the spare key I had given Julian years ago. I was waiting for them in the living room, sitting upright in my wing-backed chair. The bank statements stacked neatly on the coffee table. Bella wore a beige cashmere cardigan that I knew from my statement review. Cost $400. She looked pained, as if she were the one who had been wronged. Mom, Julian started, his voice softer now, a practiced calm. We need to have a serious conversation. Please, sit, I said. They sat on the sofa opposite me, united front. We've been doing some research, Bella said, clasping her hands. Age-related cognitive decline can start subtly. The paranoia about money, the agitation, it fits the pattern. My hands gripped the armrests. You think I have dementia because I objected to you spending $500 at a salon. It's not just the salon, Mom, Julian said, avoiding my eyes. It's the pattern. You're hoarding resources. You're irrational. We think it might be best if I took power of attorney over your accounts, just to keep everything safe for you. The audacity was breathtaking. They were trying to gaslight me into a legal straitjacket. I found the photocopy, I said. The room went dead silent. Bella blinked. What? In the lockbox upstairs. A photocopy of my card and a list of my security answers. Did you think I wouldn't look? Bella recovered quickly, a skill of the pathological liar. Oh, Eleanor, I made that copy months ago when you were sick with the flu, in case I needed to order your prescriptions and couldn't find your wallet. I was trying to help. And the security questions. Standard procedure for picking up medication, she lied smoothly. And the $30,000 in unauthorized spending over the last 18 months, I pointed to the stack of papers. Was that for the flu? Julian stood up, his face reddening again. Stop it. Stop counting pennies. We are building a future. Do you want to take it with you to the grave? We're your legacy. If you don't support us, you're actively hurting us. I am not a bank, Julian. I am your mother. Then act like one, he shouted. Mother's sacrifice, mother's help. I have sacrificed enough, I whispered. Bella stood up and placed a hand on Julian's arm. Honey, calm down. She's clearly having an episode. We shouldn't upset her further. She looked at me with pity that made my skin crawl. Eleanor, we're going to give you some space, but we've already contacted a lawyer to look into a guardianship arrangement. For your own good, get out, I said. We'll be back on Monday, Julian said, his voice cold. Hopefully, you'll be more reasonable. They left, taking the air out of the room with them. I didn't cry. I was past tears. I was in the realm of cold, hard action. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next hour was a flurry of activity. I called a locksmith to come immediately and change every lock in the house. Then, I called Martha, my neighbor of 20 years. Martha was a retired paralegal with a mind like a steel trap. Martha, I need a recommendation, I told her over tea, my hands finally shaking as the adrenaline wore off. I need the meanest, most vicious financial attorney in the city. Martha looked at the stack of bank statements I showed her. She let out a low whistle. Honey, you don't just need a financial attorney. You need a shark. Call Vincent Sterling. He eats fraudsters for breakfast. I met Mr. Sterling 2 days later. He was a sharp-featured man with silver hair and expensive suits, his office overlooking the city skyline. He listened to my story without interrupting, his pen scratching across a yellow legal pad. They threatened guardianship, Sterling asked, looking up over his spectacles. Yes, they claimed I was paranoid and incompetent. Standard predator tactic, Sterling noted dryly. Isolate the victim, question their reality, seize control. Mrs. Vance, I'm going to request a full forensic audit of your accounts. I also want you to go to this doctor. He handed me a card, for a full competency evaluation. We are going to prove you are sharper than they are. The audit took a week. What Sterling found was worse than I imagined. It wasn't just the credit card, Mrs. Vance, Sterling said, his voice grave during our next meeting. Did you authorize a home equity line of credit on your property? Absolutely not, I said, horrified. My house is paid off. Arthur paid the mortgage off in 1998. There is a pending application for a $100,000 line of credit. It was submitted online using your credentials. The funds were designated for transfer to an account held by JB Consulting, a shell company registered to Bella Vance. I felt nausea rise in my throat. They weren't just draining my savings. They were trying to mortgage my home. They were going to steal the roof over my head. And there's more, Sterling continued. They opened 3 store credit cards in your name. The statements are going to a P.O. box in Julian's name. You currently owe $12,000 to various electronics and furniture retailers. It was identity theft, pure and simple. My son was a criminal. What do I do? I asked, my voice small. We have 2 choices, Sterling said. We can handle this civilly, try to negotiate a repayment plan which they likely will default on, or, given the severity and the attempt to mortgage your home, we go to the police. This is grand larceny and elder financial abuse. It carries a prison sentence. I looked out the window. I saw the reflection of an old woman, but inside, the fire was returning. I thought of Julian as a baby. I thought of the man who stood in my living room and told me I was losing my mind so he could rob me. If I don't stop them, I said, they will do this to someone else, or they will destroy themselves. Enabling this is not love. No, Sterling agreed. It isn't. Draft the papers, I said, and get the police involved regarding the identity theft. I want everything on record. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The war began on a Monday. Julian and Bella arrived at the house, expecting to bully me into submission. Instead, they found their key didn't fit the lock. I watched from the upstairs window as Julian jiggled the handle, confused, then angry. He pounded on the door. Mother, open this door. We know you're in there. I went downstairs and opened the door, but I left the heavy security chain engaged. The locks are changed, I said through the crack. This is insane, Julian screamed. We have the papers for the competency hearing. You're proving our point. Actually, I said, you'll find that I have already undergone a competency evaluation by a court-certified geriatric psychiatrist. I scored perfectly. However, you should check your email. Mr. Sterling has sent you some documents. Bella's face went pale. Who is Mr. Sterling? My attorney. He is also sending copies of the police report regarding the fraudulent home equity application and the identity theft. Julian froze. Police report. Fraud is a felony, Julian, especially against an elder family member. The detectives were quite interested in the JB Consulting shell company. You called the cops on your own son. Julian's voice cracked. The anger was leaking out, replaced by terror. You tried to sell my house out from under me. Julian, you tried to have me declared insane. You broke the bond of mother and son long before I called the police. We can fix this, Bella interjected, her voice trembling high and shrill. Eleanor, wait, we can pay it back. It was a misunderstanding. We intended to invest the money and pay off the mortgage before you even knew. Lies. I said simply, please leave my property. If you return without your attorney, I will have you arrested for trespassing. I closed the door and threw the deadbolt. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal maneuvers. Julian and Bella tried everything. They sent flying monkeys cousins I hadn't seen in years calling me to say I was being cruel. They sent sob stories about how Julian would lose his job if he had a criminal record. But the evidence was insurmountable. The IP addresses for the fraudulent applications traced back to their apartment. The signatures were clumsy forgeries. Mr. Sterling was brilliant. He presented them with an ultimatum. 1. They would sign a confession admitting to the fraud. 2. They would agree to a strict repayment plan for the $42,000 they had stolen, with their wages garnished. 3. They would sign a permanent restraining order, barring them from coming within 500 feet of me or my finances. 4. If they defaulted on a single payment, the district attorney would unseal the criminal indictment and proceed with prosecution, which would guarantee jail time. They signed. They had no choice. The day the settlement was finalized, I sat in Sterling's conference room. Julian sat across the long mahogany table. He looked haggard. Bella refused to make eye contact, staring at her manicured nails which were chipping. Do you have anything to say, Mrs. Vance? Sterling asked me. I looked at my son. I waited for an apology. I waited for him to say he was sorry for betraying me, for hurting me. You're really going to let us struggle like this? Julian muttered, his bitterness still simmering. They're taking 30% of my paycheck. We might lose the apartment. He still didn't get it. He was mourning his comfort, not our relationship. You have your health, Julian, I said, standing up, and you have the capacity to work. That is more than you left me. I walked out of the office and didn't look back. 6 months have passed since that day. The house is quiet again, but it's a peaceful silence, not a lonely one. I made a decision shortly after the legal dust settled. The big colonial house was too full of ghosts. Every room held a memory of a little boy who no longer existed. I didn't want to haunt my own life, so I sold it. The market was good, and I got a price that made even Mr. Sterling smile. I moved to a smaller place, a lovely condominium in a coastal town 3 hours away. It has a balcony overlooking the ocean and a community garden where I grow prize-winning roses. I've joined a book club and a hiking group. I have friends who know me as Eleanor the Traveler, Eleanor the Gardener, not Eleanor the mother of the son who stole from her. My finances are secure. Mr. Sterling set up a trust that ensures no one can ever access my accounts without triple verification. Julian sends the checks every month. They are processed through the lawyer's office. I never see the envelopes, just the deposit in my account. I hear through the grapevine that Bella left him when the money dried up and the wage garnishment started. I suppose her love was as conditional as her honesty. Sometimes, when the sea breeze blows in the evening, I feel a pang of sadness for the family I thought I had. It is a grief that never fully heals. But then I look at my bank statement, steady and growing. I look at my calendar, full of lunch dates and art classes. I realized that for 70 years, I defined myself by who I took care of: my husband, my son. Now, for the first time, I am taking care of Eleanor. And as I sip my tea and watch the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of violet and gold, I know one thing for certain. I am not a victim. I am a survivor, and the rest of my life belongs entirely to me.